wanted to make a little video about a little improvement that I made for my drill press here in my workshop. I took a chunk of wood and took a Forstner bit and bored a hole through it and then cut it in half so that I could sandwich it on the main beam of my drill press. Then I took a piece of PVC pipe, cut a section off on the bandsaw, and then cut a notch out of it and screwed it into the block, wrapped a hose clamp around it, and then this is my vacuum hose. And I can crack that loose a little bit if I need to raise it up or down, but typically it works pretty good where it's at. And I put a drop of oil in here so the hose actually pivots in there, and I can get right down on top of whatever I'm drilling. This is a drill press table I made out of a emerald cutting board. A buddy of mine gave me this Dyson vacuum cleaner. That's where the hose goes. I took a couple L brackets and attached it to the bottom of my workbench. This was the on-off switch. So what I did was I drilled a hole through the table and put a little compression spring under it and just glued this rubber cap on it, but that turns it on and off. And since it's secured with the L brackets, it's easy to disassemble. So it's kind of groovy. I like it. Got a little task lighting and everything. Jamming out on Neil Schoen Pandora Radio. I took a blender and took a piece of PVC and cut it off and screwed it to the main apparatus where the blender sits on. Then I took this 1/4-inch piece of Luan and cut a piece of 3/4-inch wood that fits down into the PVC, and I screwed it to it and then fired it up. It runs kind of rough, but my wife found this, I guess, male and female velcro. I took the male stuff and attached it here so I could stick this. I don't know if I'm going to keep it for that, but it's just kind of groovy. And here's something that worked out pretty good. I found this old shop vac, and it fit underneath my bandsaw. So the switch of the bandsaw goes through, and this is where the actual bandsaw motor is plugged in. So when you flip the switch, it sends the current to the motor. Well, I put one of these three receptacle outlets in there. So I plugged my shop vac into it and just took a nice sturdy clamp, ran a bolt up through it, and cut out this piece of wood so that the vacuum hose would slide through it, so I can get right down on the piece. And now, whenever I turn on my bandsaw, the shop vac comes on at the same time. So that was kind of groovy too. And not that anybody, follows that closely or cares, but I had all of my little drawers, I don't know what you call those, little modular sets of tiny drawers for nuts and bolts and miscellaneous stuff. I had them all up on that shelf and they were kind of hard to get to. So I cleared off that shelf and just consolidated all of them right around this area. It's just more convenient, eye level, easier to get to. It's about 50 degrees outside, not too bad, but I got a little fire going in here. Trying to think if there's any other improvements that I made since I made my last video. I found a Kirby vacuum hose. Let's see if I can get it. And I don't know if you can see in there or not. Back in here, I took a piece of PVC pipe and put it on the vacuum tube that came with this little Harbor Freight sander. Put that PVC pipe on there, plugged up the bottom, and then cut a hole in the back side and stuck the Kirby vacuum hose in there, and then ran it under the table. So all I got to do is plug my shop vac. All I got to do is plug the hose into that, and that will take care of the dust when I'm using the belt sander. On the disc sander, I took a piece of PEX tubing and heated it up with a heat gun and slid it over this little snoot that they provide, and took a piece of 4x4. I don't know if you can see in there or not, but that PEX tubing goes down in there so I can just stick my dust vac in there, and that takes care of dust when I'm using the disc sander. On my door, this is just a cheap, this is like an interior door. So I took this piece of plywood and traced around it, drilled 4 holes in it, so I knew where to screw it. And put my coat hanger on there so when I come in here with a jacket, the light over my table saw, the light in this cabinet, and this fluorescent light over all of my, I don't know what you'd call these things. Here's heat shrink tubing, Woodruff keys. Here's a nylon lock nut assortment. Just these nice convenient little containers. I got everything plugged in to this strip, so when I turn it on, this light comes on, the fluorescent light comes on, and light over the table saw comes on. So this is like task lighting central. Let's see what else. I can't remember if I had this done or not. I just took some 1/4-inch Luan and covered up the sides of my table saw and put a hole in it so I could plug the shop vac in there. Right now I got the shop vac hooked up to the bandsaw. So I got a shop vac that goes to the blade and a shop vac that goes into the housing. So I guess while we're here, we'll take a peek. The wood stove, I keep all my firewood out here, and my wife found these strip lights. I got a little push button switch here, but she found these strip lights, a bunch of them, red and yellow. So I strung them up around here. I got a couple little fluorescent things. At nighttime, I don't want to grab a brown recluse spider when I'm grabbing firewood. So we'll just head on out this way. There's that's an old Magna BMX bike. Fix up. So here's the outside of the shop. I hope nobody breaks in. And we've come full circle. Here's another upgrade I made. And I don't remember if it was in my last video, so I apologize. Not that anybody would watch 2 of my videos. But I mounted this motor. I bought a smaller fan belt, a shorter one, and mounted this motor to a hinge so that the weight of the motor would kind of pull on the belt. But I noticed if I was turning something and did hit a knot and it stopped just for a second, this thing would jump. So I put this spring on there. It just kind of helps hold it in place. I try to keep like a set of hand tools around all these different workstations so I don't have to go all over the shop to get something. If I need it right here at the drill press, I don't want to go all the way over to the workbench. So over here, I just got a screwdriver, and I made this little rascal here. Too much time on my hands. It's got all the bits in it. It drops in here. And that's so, since this table is on hinges, when I fold it down, those things won't fall out. But if for some reason I need a screwdriver over here, which I don't know why I would, it's readily available. Excuse me. Mounted my fire extinguisher there. I figure if I come in here and this thing's fully involved, the fire's going to start over there. So I don't want to have to go through the flames to get the fire extinguisher. So I got it back here out of the way. So, as far as I know, that is all my... Oh, I can't remember if I showed you this either. This is just a simple box that I made. This plastic tray was the front of a combination washing machine and dryer. And I took it off, cut a hole, dropped it in there, put a little bead of hot glue. And this is one of those magnetic trays. So whenever I dump out a thing of, for example, nuts or little machine screws, it's just a convenient place to put them. Or if I'm taking something apart, it's kind of nice to be able to throw them in there. They're easy to get back out. And that'll just about do it, I think. Well, here's a bike I'm working on. Just teasing. All right, the Quicksand Workshop.